what's up?
Nothing much. Sorry, I'm trying to get everything in
Oh,
order.
you're good. Take your time.
I apologize ahead of time if you can like hear what seems like outrageous stomping going. Upstairs. We have hardwood floors, and it feels like everything is like inside.
That
Like,
must be fun for you.
well, it's actually so unfun that I'm willing to pay thousands of dollars for a studio per month for a studio inside of downtown Pittsburgh. So
Yay.
yeah. So hold on.
Trade-offs. Oh gosh.
Hold on 1 second. Is this all right?
Hey,
So
welcome.
I got the chicken sandwich behind me.
Love it. That's so freaking cool. I'm gonna ask you about it, but I just the second I laid eyes on it, I was like, wow, that's a creative mind to come up with something like that.
Well, we came up with it in maybe the most uncreative way possible.
Did you drop a chicken sandwich in paint?
Me and a friend of mine, we're going to start a new series of 3 dipped things, and afterwards he was like, well, let's after we like pick up all the stuff that we need for this, let's like go get chicken sandwiches. And I was like, what if we dipped a chicken sandwich in the paint? And he's like, that would be funny. And then I was like, well, let's dip the chicken sandwich in the paint, just see what happens. And then it was like the only thing I thought about. I didn't even, all the other stuff I used from that night, I won't even do. It's just this.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cool. Like, yeah.
It's funny how it worked out. I was not expecting this type of turnout, but it ended up being one of my favorite things of all time.
It's pretty sick. Yeah. Have you had a good response on the giveaway for the prints?
That was kind of a last minute thing. I have
Okay.
a weirdly not negative, but like a really muted response just from the chicken sandwich painting in general, which it's fine. I also put it at a price that I don't think anyone will touch.
Right.
I would like to have it for a while.
Okay.
And if somebody does in fact touch that price, that will make me very happy.
Okay. So kind of like a win-win either way. You get to keep it or somebody pays you what you want for it.
Yeah,
All
definitely. It's a weird system I have. Maybe I'd like to just keep the thing that I like around for a while until I have a new favorite thing, and then maybe I'll let the price drop a little bit on it.
Gotcha. That must be so interesting because I do music. So whenever I create music and put it out there for people to consume, I still have it myself. I have access to it if I want to do anything with it. But whenever you paint something, when you sell it, it's gone. The only thing you have is pictures. And that's not the same. So that's very fascinating because I would imagine that you would feel like part of you is in that. So to lose it would be kind of a bummer.
Yeah. Have we started?
I've been recording the whole time because I made the mistake of not recording once and learned from it. But yeah, it was a bummer. But it all works out. It's the learning curve of podcasting and Zooming. But yeah, it's very chill because it is pre-recorded and I'll edit and splice. So yeah, it's super chill.
Yeah, it's an impressive jersey collection you have.
Thank you. And that's not even all of it. I will venture to say that I have a problem.
How many do you think you have?
So I have 12 Pens jerseys, No, 13. I have 2 Pirates jerseys, just nameless because
Yeah.
I learned my lesson.
Right.
And then 7 Steelers jerseys.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's been a long time in the making.
I would venture to say that I have about 50.
That's awesome.
I just haven't. And you know what's really cool about them is maybe 45 of them are signed, and they have like a little note that's like, to Cody, thank you for the thank you for the painting,
Uh,
or whatever. I could show you a few.
can you please? Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
Yeah, give me
Oh
one
my
second.
goodness.
One
This is
second.
awesome. Obviously, since I'm like addicted to jerseys, you're giving me a hit of a drug that I just absolutely can't get enough of.
So I've got some of my favorite ones here. So this is from James. He wrote a nice little note that says,
Oh my goodness.
"Do Cody appreciate the work, my guy? Thank you." And
Wow.
signature there. So there's one. Cole Tucker.
Wow.
Do Cody, thanks for the dope art and the good friendship. Appreciate you, bro. See you soon.
That's awesome. Oh my goodness.
This is a game worn Trevor Williams jersey that
Wow.
says, Cody, thank you for your friendship and art and love for Jesus. Let's go, Buck. So cute little thing at the bottom there. Should I call it
Awesome.
cute? Sure. Game worn. He actually pitched in this jersey. Jamison Tyone. Thanks for the painting. I'll cherish it for life.
Dang.
Thing. This one is very special. This is a game worn Pro Bowl jersey from Cam Hayward. It says, to my favorite painter, thanks for everything.
Oh my gosh.
And
wow.
I didn't want to take too much time looking for different stuff, but this one is kind of a cool one. This is a Connor McDavid signed. Cody, great job on the painting. Connor McDavid there in the corner.
When did you do a painting for Connor McDavid?
I don't know. I think it was like, it was in the off season, maybe last off season. No, I guess it'd be 2 off seasons ago.
Holy
Yeah,
crap.
he had come back to Erie to do an event, and it was my job to paint him that night.
Wow.
So I got to meet him and hang out with really cool people from that really talented like 2015 Erie Otters team. I think Alex Brinkett and Dylan Strom and all of those guys were back. Mike Rupp was there.
Wow.
So it was a really cool event.
Dang.
Yeah. That's just a handful. There are so many. But what you got to do on the Pirates jersey front, if you are what I did recently is I just got a number 42, like a Jackie Robinson.
Okay.
Because they'll wear those every year.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually bid on one of the game worn ones that they had worn this year.
Wow.
And I actually got it for really cheap.
Really? How did that work?
I don't think they don't really push their auctions. So like I got it for what would be less than like an Adidas Penguins jersey.
Wow.
So it was like maybe $180.
Wow. Because
Yeah,
those MLB jerseys, the authentic ones, are a
they
good
are
amount of money.
wild.
Yeah, over $300.
I'm gonna text my wife and tell her to bring it down.
Seriously, I would love to see that because oh my goodness, wow. And I have the Cam Hayward is my favorite Steeler by far. Love him.
Cam's the best.
Oh my goodness, he seems like such a good dude.
Him and his wife got me and my wife a wedding gift. That's how cool they are.
Wow. So
How
you're tight
sweet.
like that.
With just a few guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Other
because
guy, other guys I'm not as close with, but Instagram makes it look like we're tight. So
right.
I'll
And
ride
yeah,
that as long as I can.
yeah. And you've done a good amount of work, even just hearing that you painted Connor McDavid. Like you've been around. So
Mhm.
that's kind of that was one of the questions that I had for you. Like what are your relationships like with those athletes? Because it does mean something whenever you commission art for them, but obviously you're not going to connect and bond with everybody. So I was curious if there were a few, like a handful of guys within the different organizations in Pittsburgh that you were actually close with, as opposed to just kind of doing one-off things for.
Yeah, there. So I am a little bit closer. Sorry, that's my wife. I think she's coming down with the
Cool.
jersey. There are a few guys that I'm close with. Cam is probably the number one, I
Okay.
would say. Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Thank you.
Get this.
Oh, look at that. And it's the black script. Oh my goodness.
Look at this cool patch here. It's thick. It's like 6 pounds.
Oh my goodness. That is so
So,
clean.
and the
Wow.
42.
That is so cool. Oh my
Can
goodness.
you hear my kid freaking out?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. He's awesome.
Wants the jersey for himself.
I
No
know,
big
I
deal.
know.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's because mom left him for
Oh,
30
well, that would
seconds
make
to go
sense
do
too.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I got really close with a lot of the baseball guys and some of the hockey guys. In fact, with the hockey guys, I think the guy that I'm closest to is Sid.
Wow. I mean,
Which
that's not a bad guy to be close with.
No, he's pretty good at hockey. Um, he's a really, really cool guy. He's a very private guy.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't have his phone number or anything like that, but we have a mutual connection through the organization that we like talk through if he ever needs anything from me. And he wrote me a real sweet note when I did his 1000th NHL game painting.
Which was
So
beautiful. Oh my
thank
goodness. It was so cool.
he wrote a really, really kind thing. It was because that would be the third painting. He They auctioned off the original, but he made sure that he had a print for himself, which I thought was
Mm,
special. And so that would be the third piece of art that he has from me.
okay.
As far as the Steelers go, the guys that I've spent the most time with have been like Cam Hayward and Devin Bush, I would say.
Okay.
But I have a really difficult time calling myself friends with people. It's sort of this weird middle school rule that I have that like they have to call me a friend first
Mm,
before I give myself that title because I don't want to ever assume that without and like somebody coming up to one of them and be like, hey, your friend Cody, and they're like, oh, that dude's just my painter. I have a weird I guess philosophy in those terms, but as far as the Pirates go, all my friends have been traded.
that's so sad.
um Joe Musgrove, who
Mm-hmm.
I keep in touch with pretty regularly, Jameson Tyon, we'll talk every once in a while. Jameson is probably one of the best Fortnite players I've ever seen.
Dang.
And I've recently became friends over the last 6 months with Jack Wilson.
Nice. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so what's really funny about Jack is he reached out to me through Instagram, and he his account has less than 1,000 followers on it. So I thought it was like a fan page because it was like Jack.Wilson_2. And then there was like a bunch of pictures of his kids. And I was
Okay.
like, this has to be the real guy,
Mm-hmm.
or the creepiest fan ever to get these like super recent pictures of his kids. So we started playing Call of Duty together, and Jameson's really good at Fortnite, but Jack might be the greatest video gamer I've ever played with in my life.
That is shocking to me. I don't know why that's shocking to me, but it is.
He's so good. I mean, okay, he's made close to $50 million in his career. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he's got nothing to do other than play video games.
Guess
So
that's true.
I'm just kidding. He's super immersed in his son Jacob plays at Grand Canyon University, and he's
Nice.
coaching, I think, an independent team, or like a Cape Cod League team. I
Oh,
can't
wow.
remember. So yeah, that's the long
Mm-hmm.
version of who are my special professional athletes.
Well, first of all, I cannot, it hurts my brain that Jack Wilson has a son who's college aged.
Yeah,
Because I grew up watching him as a player. That makes me feel old somehow, but young at the same. I don't know what to do with that information, but it's really cool that you were able to create any kind of relationship with any of the athletes. But I also think it's not surprising because of what you're doing for them, because you're commemorating in a lot of cases really big moments in their careers. For example, Joe Musgrove's no-hitter, that was huge, and the painting that you did for him was stunning. It was so good, and it
thank you.
was so perfect for what that was, especially for a guy like Joe who is so solid and has worked so hard throughout his career to be able to have something to look at and remember that moment from somebody who is a good friend of his.
Yeah,
And even the 1000th game for Sid, you may not be, best friends with him and going to grab beers once a week, but that was a really big deal. That was a really big deal, especially when you consider all of the stuff that he's had to overcome in his career with the injuries and the concussions. And goodness, the fact that he saw 1000 games was
yeah.
monumental for him. So for you to be a part of that, and for him to want to take a part of that, even though they did auction off the original painting, that has to be so cool for you.
Yeah, it is super cool. I mean, I can remember being like 9 years old. So he's drafted in 2005. I
Mm-hmm.
was 9 turning 10 that year. So I remember drawing a picture of him in his Rimouski uh jersey on like some notebook paper, one of my dad's work notebooks. And to like go from that to being a part of these cool things that he does through the organization, through
Mm-hmm.
him personally and his foundation, um, I definitely wouldn't have thought that that's where this would end up. But I guess, like, in hindsight, it does make a little bit of sense, that it because I've never stopped doing it. Hopefully, after 15 years, it would turn into something.
Yeah. So you've been doing something with art for a pretty long time then.
For a long time. I was just always I was always doing it. I was always like working out something. My brain was always doing something before my hands were out. Like, I can
Mhm.
remember as a kid, a young kid, maybe like 6 or 7, drawing like people, and I remember my brain being like, that's not how hands look. Like, because I would draw 'em like popcorn,
Mm.
like that, like all the kids do. And I just remember like my brain being like, That's not what hands look like.
Mm.
So then I would be like, okay, well, what do hands look like? There's actually 3 or 4 things that I remember completely changing the trajectory of like the skills that I had. I remember that specifically. I remember in high school, when I was a freshman, we had a substitute, like a long-term sub, because my high school teacher was out. And I was drawing a picture of a West Virginia Mountaineers football player who went to my high school, Tyler Urban. Shout out Tyler. Uh, and they had the yellow jerseys with the piping that came up to the top and those blocky numbers, and to shade in the, it was in color and colored pencils, and to shade in the, like, under the arms where it got dark, like I was using a black colored pencil and I was trying to shade it. And I believe her name was Miss Viola, she like came up to me and was like, where do you see black in this? And I was like, oh crap, I don't. Like, the darker the yellow goes, the more brown or orange or however it looks. And I remember that right there like changed my whole perception on color. And then when my high school teacher got back, there was this term called stretcher taffy, which just means like to grow in your contrast better, to like, you're gonna get the most out of your work the more value you show. Like this part isn't dark enough, and because that part's not dark enough, you can't see the full scope of like how this is supposed to be shaped. So those 3 things have really just like were atomic bombs in my brain to grow. So those things were super, super helpful. I don't even remember what the question was.
Well, I was just kind of asking a generalized, how long have you been doing it kind of thing. Yeah. And it's been for a while, because you mentioned doodling Sid in his jerseys way back whenever the Penguins drafted him. And you've done quite a bit, and your art is very unconventional. So I think that that's one of the things that really does set you apart, because you are, honestly, I would use the word kind of like visionary almost, because you've found a way to take your craft and turn it into something that other people aren't really doing. Like you paint a lot of cleats, like a ton of cleats. How in the world did you even start doing that?
So I believe Trevor Williams and Jameson Tyon were the first people to reach out to me. That's like, hey, you paint on these canvases, can you do shoes? And I was like, yeah, of course. I've never done it before. Of course. So I like learned on the fly, and the first couple pairs were horrible. But they still wore them and they cherished them. Which I think is really cool. In fact, like Trevor shared a picture the other day of like something on his mantle, and my shoes were up there, and I was like, oh dude, like that is really cool. It's just those things that you like appreciate a little bit. And then I started teaching myself. Like, I believe that there's nothing that you can't learn on YouTube. Maybe like astrophysics or something like that, but like there's nothing that you can't learn. So I studied and I bought the same stuff that I saw in videos that the best of the best were using. And then eventually, I mean, over last summer, I was like getting so many cleats from football guys at this point that I was like, I need to get the setup. If I'm going to do cleats, I'm going to do cleats like the best people in the world. So I bought myself airbrushes, a Silhouette Studio, which is like a vinyl cutter that helps you get like really crisp and clean designs. And I taught myself how to use an airbrush, which I actually I used in that Joe Musgrove painting that we mentioned earlier, because it brings out a whole nother element of like a blurred background, and you could bring things in and out of focus with it. So I I really invested thousands of dollars into figuring out how to be better at it.
Mm.
A lot of the times when I level up, it means that you just bought better equipment and you teach yourself a new thing. And so that I constantly am investing back into the skill and into the talent in hopes to, like, be next level.
Yeah, and I think there's a certain give and take there where you do have to not only put in the time to hone in on your craft, but also put in the investment kind of financially to get yourself to that next level, because you sort of have to see those two things moving simultaneously if you actually want to be going forward.
Yeah, money allows you to build. So the
Mm-hmm.
more that I've been able to do, as far as these big projects with these really cool people, the more the more you invest back into yourself, and it allows you to do bigger and better things. It allows you to dream better. So, money is important.
Yeah, it opens doors.
Yeah.
It's not everything, but it does help a whole lot whenever you are trying to build
Yeah.
something, and
But that's
that's
also
respectable.
but also I use Walmart paintbrushes. Like, I use a lot of paint that the professionals don't use,
Mm,
because I know how to work with it and I've gotten good at it. I used to work for Baron Batch for a
okay.
summer, and he's, former Steeler, super talented artist, but he was just like, when you're broke, just paint on anything. And
Mm,
I was broke when I'd work for him. So he was like, just paint on anything. So I painted on shoes. He was like, I painted on cornhole boards for as long as I can remember. And I was like, okay. So I started painting on, like, Luan wood boards that are, like,
wow.
you know, not that thick, like, just to paint, just to do anything.
Mm,
So that would be my advice, is like, just paint on anything. Use what you can now and reinvest in
hmm.
yourself. I guess this has turned into an artist tip podcast.
I love it though. I mentioned earlier that I do music, and it's something that I love, but I've always kind of felt like if there were two things that I could choose to be really, really talented at doing, it would be dancing or art. Because I'm just so bad at both. I'm so bad at both. And I am always amazed at people or by people who just have a gift, but not just that, are willing to work at it and get better and better and better. And it's just something that it's a world I don't understand. It's outside my realm of comprehension. So whenever I can talk to somebody who does it and does it so well, it really is like, I just want to know. I just want to pick your brain. Like, how does that happen? I just don't get it. Like,
Yeah.
it's incredible to me.
Well, I'm still figuring out as well. I'm self-taught. Everything that I learned was because I needed to figure it out for myself. So I'm self-taught and YouTube taught. I failed, you know, all the projects I have done before are failures in some way. In some way, they don't live up to the standard I set for myself. And it's a very frustrating bar to set for yourself, but also at the same time, like, it's the bar that keeps you growing and keeps you moving. I've done this for, so many years at this point that I like, it's hard to consider it luck for how many hours
Mm,
went into it. Like,
yeah.
I think the rule is, like, what is it, like 10,000?
10,000. Yep.
Yeah, I don't think I'm quite at 10,000 hours, but sure, sometimes it feels like that.
Yeah. And you have to just keep going. Nobody
Yeah.
starts at 10,000 hours. And that's kind of honestly encouraging. Like, nobody is has an advantage whenever they initially get going. And
Right.
it's just all a matter of, are you willing to put in the time that it takes to get really, really good at your craft? And I feel
Yeah.
like you have, and you are, and you're just kind of seeing the results and the rewards of it in everything that you've been doing and seeing.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That it has been really, really cool. And I think the one thing that I get to do now is I get to start branching off from doing stuff that people want me to do to doing my own ideas.
Mm,
Um, for example,
that is so cool.
things like that, to where you appreciate the opportunities in all forms that they come in, but the
Hmm.
people that love your idea or the thing that you dreamed up it's just a little bit more special. And
Hmm.
Joe Musgrove was the first one to buy a painting that I just did because I had an idea.
Wow.
And that painting is something that I will cherish forever. And I'll cherish, Joe forever, because he was like, that's dope, I want that. And
Hmm.
um I talked to somebody the other day who's close with him in the Pirates organization, and they're like, "Oh yeah, he still has that painting as the background on his phone."
Wow.
And I was like, that's super cool." Yeah,
That's pretty sick.
yeah, it's
Dang.
Pittsburgh is awesome,
Hmm.
and like we all just want to help each other, and I've definitely felt like people have supported me in here in this city. 1,000 times more than I could have ever asked for. So I'm eternally grateful, and there are going to be ways that I figure out how to be able to give back more than I've been as of late.
It's a great city to be pursuing anything in. It seems, honestly, everybody is so encouraging and supportive. It's really cool, and especially whenever you have guys like Joe Musgrove, who isn't even here anymore, but still a pretty prolific name in the MLB,
Yeah.
on your team. That's pretty cool. Um, but honestly, so well deserved, because uh, the work that you do is just seriously so good and so impressive. And yeah, I'm just amazed by it, honestly. Yeah, but sports, are you actually into sports, or is it just kind of a conduit for your art?
My relationship with sports has changed over time. So I actually played college football. I was a quarterback and a defensive end at Kentucky Christian University. So I've,
KCU, get
yeah.
out. Oh
Do
my
you know
goodness.
that school?
Yes, I do. I went, oh my gosh, wow. I went to a week-long church. What?
You went to Summer in the
I
Sun?
went to Summer in the Sun. Yes, I did.
What?
Yep, 2011.
I was there.
Oh my goodness. Yep, I was there.
What do you
Uh-huh.
what church? Bellevue.
No, it was we were such a tiny crew. The youth pastor had just left, so it was like, I think 3 or 4 students, and then a couple adult leaders, one of which who was my mom. Mount Carmel
Yeah,
Church out in
yeah.
Aliquippa. Yep, we
They
were
still
there.
go, I think.
Really.
Well, I don't know. It sounds because I ended up working Casey or
Oh my
Summer in the
goodness.
Sun. That
Wow.
is so wild.
That's
When
insane.
I ended up going to that school,
Yeah,
which
you
I
all
love
right.
it. Okay, I love it. I said it like it was the worst thing in the world. No, I loved it. I made lifelong friends
Hmm.
there. And what's crazy is there are so many KCU people here in Pittsburgh.
Really?
Yeah, I just had lunch with one yesterday who
Oh
went
my
there like
goodness.
10 years before I did. But I'm friends currently with the guy who was the RA when I was at Summer in the Sun, not a student. When I was at Summer in the Sun back in 2009 through 11, he was like my RA. He has a church down in Kentucky, and we just know each other personally.
Oh my goodness, that's wild.
And he was the weirdest, coolest guy. Like he was like, you can never take him seriously. I remember it being like, dude, I remember being like, buddy, like this is the last night we get to like hang out together. He's like, what do you want? Like a kiss or something? And I'm like obviously just joking, but it was like one of those funny guys. Now that
Yeah.
he's like a wife and a family, it's like I get to be like, hey, you remember how weird you were like back in the day?
I
That's so
remember.
crazy.
Yeah, and I know we have another connection too. I go a little bit back, not way back, but a little bit with Spencer and Mackenzie, Teo.
Oh, I was just
Yeah.
with Spencer today.
Yeah, I met them through gosh, when they were still doing what is now Unaltered.
Altered, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I met them and we've kind of stayed in touch on and off, but yeah, I see that he does a lot of your photography and
Yeah.
videography and stuff. You guys are like a killer team there.
We make a great team, and he's actually we're looking for a studio space together to just continue being able to work with each other and help each other out. And so he has he's very wise, he's very smart, and he's able to help me put into words like some of these visions that I have, because I'm a very visual person. And he's able to help me like how will this look to to everybody? What does this say when you look at it, and different things like that. We just have these really cool conversations, these really deep conversations. And sometimes he'll just talk and I'll just be like, I'm gonna pretend I'm keeping up.
Yeah, he and his wife both, they're very, very wise people.
Yeah, Ken's is great. She is she's very smart. So like if we don't know something, we'll go to her.
She knows a
What
lot.
she does. Yeah,
Yeah.
she's fantastic. They're fantastic. The issue is that he lives, like, if you had a map of the city stretching all the way out to like, where he is in Leedsburg, I'm all the way on the other side of the city in Irwin.
That's
So
tricky.
so downtown's actually the easiest meeting point, and that's why we are putting our studio
Right.
smack dab downtown.
Smart. You're still tunnels apart though. That's the tricky thing about Pittsburgh is
Yeah.
you have to navigate those dang tunnels.
Well,
Oh
I
my
used to
goodness.
work at a church in Robinson, and
Really?
yes, the Bible Chapel.
Okay.
They have multiple campuses, but I worked out in Robinson, and I would try to get to work at 7 a.m. so I could leave at 3, because it would take me, if I left at 4:30, I wouldn't get home until 6.
Yeah. Sounds
Because
about right.
that's Fort Pitt Tunnel and Squirrel Hill Tunnel traffic. And you better, like, that's the only time I think a full Joe Rogan podcast is like acceptable. It's like those 3-hour podcasts is like, well, that's my commute. So
Oh, it's a mess having to navigate that. Oh,
I
goodness.
cannot believe you've know about Kentucky Christian University, let alone have been there.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, that is so
Crazy.
fun.
That is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said you were the quarterback defensive end there.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
From 2013 to 2017.
Okay.
And so going back to the original question, my relationship with sports, after I was done being an athlete, there was like, you have that part of your identity that just like evaporates. So the speed paintings have kind of been the adrenaline rush of like playing in front of people and all that kind of stuff. But the way I watch sports now is a little bit different. In fact, my wife, who we met at KCU, She's from Kentucky. She came
Okay.
up here. I would consider her a bigger Pittsburgh sports fan than I
Oh,
am.
wow.
She is on top of things.
Good
You
for
could
her.
hear her cursing out the Capital. She watches like other teams. She watches like Capitals Boston to see, the Penguins going to hold first place in the division,
Oh my
or
gosh.
it's crazy. So she's great with that. Um, my there's a toxicity to sports as a whole, not just here in Pittsburgh, but in general, where people are just really volatile
Mm,
towards people. For example, I'm one of the guys that I would consider myself a friend with is Terrell Edmonds,
mm,
who is one of the best people, not in sports that I know, but like just one of the best people I know. There's not a
mm.
single bad thing that you could say about Terrell Edmonds. But I remember doing this mural for somebody, big Yinzer Steeler fan. It was really cool mural, and he was just asking me about some of the guys that I know, and I was like, yeah, I know Terrell Edmonds. Or he asked me personally about him, and I was like, he's one of the best dudes. Like, he's super big into his faith, and he's just a really good family dude. Carries himself just so, and he's only like 23.
Hmm.
It feels like he's been a Steeler for 10 years. He's
Yeah.
23 years old. Maybe he's 24 now. But he was like, yeah, that's awesome. I just, he just sucks at football. And I'm like, man, I just told you we were friends. Like I know it's just like, it comes with the job, but I feel like some of the just some of the like something that a player could do on Sunday could ruin someone's entire week.
Mm,
I
yeah.
think it's weirder and weirder to me. Um, I totally get it. I get how Pittsburgh sports are the backbone of this city, and they should be. And I think it sort of raises I think with how highly regarded these sports are and the standard that they set, like within the Steelers and the Penguins organizations, that it sort of sets a bar for the rest of the community, which I think is really great. But there are some really toxic things too,
Mm,
associated with sports that have kind of like made me change the way that I view certain things.
hmm.
Um, it also sort of changes like being around some of these guys changes the way I think about like contracts and business.
Yeah.
And um, it's 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 a good thing that I have gotten so close with these people, because that the off-field stuff um, is really, really, I don't really know how to describe it
Hmm.
without being uh, without giving personal examples, but it all comes back to a place that's like, it shouldn't celebrate when there's things to celebrate, and nobody wants to go out there and screw up or lose. So
Right.
let's just, these are family people too, and
Hmm.
like some of the things that people say on social media are just like really, really, really shocking. I just hope it changes a little bit.
It's really difficult because I think that it's it's pretty typical for us in human nature to kind of simplify people in the entertainment industry. And while sports are, it's a very multidimensional thing, it is entertainment for a lot of people, and those people can very easily strip away the humanity from the people that they're watching on the television, because all they are to them is a means to either an adrenaline rush or, like you said, the rest of my week is shot because you missed whatever play I thought you should have, you know, come through on. And it's, I don't know, it's just it's so much more nuanced than I think a lot of sports fans in Pittsburgh and probably elsewhere, but this is the culture we're immersed in, so we'll just run with it. I think that people just don't realize that, or they're not willing to realize it, that they are people who, after the game is over and they take their gear off, they go home and they have to not only live with whatever happened on the field, but live through whatever people throw at them on social media and throw at their families. And I know that, oh my goodness, like I do another podcast called Yinzers, and we talked to Juju Smith-Schuster's mom in our first episode.
yeah.
And
She got death threats.
yeah, she
Yeah.
got death threats. I can't even remember over what at this point, but she was getting messages on Instagram, on Twitter about so much nonsense that
Yeah.
it's just unbelievable to me, because sports have always been such a, not personally, I am not athletic in the least, but like watching sports and enjoying sports and being a part of that has always been such a big deal to me. So to think that other people are dehumanizing the athletes and their families and whoever is associated with the teams that they're watching, it doesn't make sense to me, because sports are great, but they aren't the end all. And
Right.
I think whenever we try to make them the end in and of themselves, it's just it's a recipe for disaster, because then it does turn into you didn't do what I wanted you to do, so I'm your boss because you get paid millions of dollars and I'm
Well,
the one watching.
I think it's really funny that the people are like, that because they bought like a jersey or something, that means they have like some sort of a stake in the team, so that they've helped pay for Juju's salary
Oh my goodness.
or anything. And it's like, it's a really self-important way of looking at that. And just to be clear, these players, they can take it, but at the same time, like, they shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
I think they will disguise, or they will cover or blanket these like really horrible, volatile statements with like, well, I'm just passionate for my team. And it's like, I just don't really see it that way. I don't really see it as passion. I kind of see it just as like sports are so important, but that should it be that important that you're like threatening one of the players and moms over it? So it's horrible. But at the same time, I've seen sports do the most wonderful things. I think honestly, one of the greatest sports things I've ever seen was the Pirates playoff runs back from 13 through 15. Like just the way the city just comes together during playoff runs and when things are really going great, and things are amazing. I love sports. I watch them a little bit differently now because of how because you root for specific guys that you know, because you know that they're great guys, and like you root for genuinely good people. Like I'll always be, Cam Hayward's biggest fan. I'll always be Joe Hayden's biggest fan, and Devin's biggest fan, and guys that have left like James Conner, who couldn't be a nicer dude. And I'm always going to be a big Phil Kessel fan because he's the guy that sort of started all this for me.
Yep. He's the first Penguins jersey I ever owned.
Oh yeah.
Yep. I love Phil Kessel so much. I shared an elevator with him in Nashville. I lived there for a few years, one of which was 2017 when they were in the Cup. And I just so happened to be at the same hotel going to the rooftop bar that they were staying in for
Yeah.
games 3 and 4. And yeah, I saw him at the airport one time with his dog. I
Bella.
love Phil Kessel so
Yeah.
much. And I just thought he was one of the his responses to media questions and
He's
his
so funny.
personality, he's
Yeah.
hilarious. I love him so much. And when he got his 900th point the other night, I
Oh
was
yeah.
like beside myself, so thrilled for him.
Well, I believe it was almost 3 years ago now. I was dropping off a painting for Sid, but um, I also had some stuff in this like a signing that was going on. It was just a Penguins Foundation signing. So I was just there with Jason Seidling, who is sort of our mediator between me and the guys.
Mhm.
Jason is team travel, maybe team communications. He has a big office, big office, Penguins Arena. Um, and I'm sitting there just waiting for Sid to come through so we could do this exchange, and I think we wanted to meet each other. At least that was what I was told. Sid may have never have said that. And Phil kind of came in, and I knew at this point, like, Phil was the reason that I got any sort of like my first recognition was because of that Phil Kessel painting that I made back in 2017,
Mm.
which he had in hanging up in his house, because you can see in the virtual tour when he sold his house here in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And Phil was complaining about how many pucks he had to sign in this auction, and Jen Bolano, who's Penguins public relations, was like, Phil, just sign the pucks. He's like, well, there's like 50 of them here. Like, I'm trying to have a nice afternoon, but not in like a jerk way, like in
Yeah.
a very like, and only a way that Phil Kessel could come across as like funny,
Mhm.
but as such a jerk at the same time. And not, it didn't come out like a jerk at all. He was just so funny. And Jen's like, Phil, are you gonna say hi to Cody? Cody's here. And he just looked up at me and was just like, hi, Cody. Just back to signing pucks. He is so funny. Like he's just he's one of those guys that you can't quite characterize or put him in a box,
Mhm.
because like people will read him to be such a like a bad dude or a locker room killer, when
Yep.
I think he's just a funny, cynical dude.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's just my take on him. He's not much like Sid. Gino, I've actually like never really met in person,
Mm.
other than like I always know that he tries to like dip out early um of like signings or events, because he just wants to go home, you
Yeah.
know. Who can't understand that, you know?
Yeah.
So I've had a really good time with these guys. Um, so I'm super grateful for
Yeah.
all these opportunities.
They're so incredible. Oh my goodness. I just can't even believe yeah, that you've seen a lot, and that's pretty cool to be able to do what you love and also interact with a lot of really cool people as a result.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. They the thing I think that strikes you the most at first and then goes away is just like how normal these people
Mhm.
are. And it was always my point to be like, all you do is talk about the sport that you're in. Like,
Yeah.
that's your job. So when I get the opportunity to be around somebody, uh, I'm not going to talk to them about their sport,
Yeah.
unless something jarring happens or something crazy that's
Mhm.
not pertinent to their team, but it's happening around the league. Like, we'll talk about that, just because at that point it's like pop culture.
Right.
Um, I remember talking to Matt at an event where he had to be around like some big donors, and I remember Matt like feeling a little down. So when we were doing like the art thing, he had to like sign a canvas and stuff. We like got to talk about music for a while,
Mm.
and it was like a really cool conversation because it sounded like he was you know, surprised that he was getting asked like a real person question
Yeah.
instead of what was the 2016 Eastern Conference Finals like, and you know, so things like that, that they want to talk about music and movies and all this stuff because they're super normal. The more that, you know, they don't want to talk about sports all the time.
Right. Nobody wants to talk about their job all the time. As much as they may love it, it makes people feel like they are one dimensional, and nobody likes to feel one dimensional. I think that we all appreciate being seen in our complexity and for the different ways that we can approach all of life's things, you know? And that's kind of like why I wanted to start a podcast at all, because there's so many different sports podcasts out there, and you know, people talking about what's going on in news and hearing from the players about different sports things. But I wanted to see if I could create something or anything where people could come on and feel like I'm a full person here. It's not just
Yeah.
talking about sports. That's the focus, but like being exactly who I am and just kind of hanging out with a friend, drinking beer, that kind of thing, because people
Yeah.
really need that, I think.
Well, one thing Jameson Tyone told me all those years ago, back all the way back in 2017, was like he said something along the lines of, you get to help us like express ourselves as more than just baseball players. And that kind of struck me as like, because that year was like the first year I got to really be around some of these guys.
Yep.
And from that moment on, I was like never going to, maybe it was, I don't know how pretentious this sounds, but like I'm never going to treat them like a baseball player.
Yeah.
And I don't ever want to sound like, well, yeah, it's because I know them. It's like, yeah, but I don't really know them. I know some of them slightly. I've had a few conversations with a few of them, but I'm not going to treat them like royalty because of their job. And I'm
Yeah.
not going to treat them like garbage if they drop an easy touchdown or miss a tackle or, uh, you know, whiff on the one timer or strike out 4 times in a game. It's at the end of the day, it, we're all just trying to figure out sort of how to interact with one another, and we shouldn't treat you know, them a certain way just because they can catch well or shoot
Yeah.
better than us.
And because they're on TV for it.
Yeah.
Everybody's just another person, really. And you can respect people for what they do, for sure, and their ability. I think it's so important to cheer people on in the different gifts that they have and strengths that they carry and possess. But it's one of those tricky things whenever people are so entrenched in the public eye that it becomes very easy to either idolize them for what they do or chastise them for what they don't do.
Yeah. I I think what's really cool, I love when I see players kind of clap back on Twitter and stuff like that. I think it's really funny. The funniest guy out there on social media is Devin Bush, I think.
He's hilarious.
He'll
Such a
get
good
on.
follow.
He'll get on every once in a while and just be like, and just say the craziest stuff. I'll ask him about it too. I'm gonna be doing. He moved, so all that mural work that I did last summer is gone.
You can,
But he has a new place and he has bigger walls, so I'll hopefully all of May or the rest of May is spent in his basement hanging out.
that's good. Get to do
Yeah,
some work.
he's great, but his dog is way cooler than him. He has a little American pit bull named Tank, and my highlight last summer was just hanging out with Tank, me, my brother, and Tank, just all the time.
That is so cool.
And Tank was he was such a puppy back then, so he's probably full size now.
Oh wow. Okay.
He'll be a force to
Yeah.
reckon with. Hanging out with him.
Good luck with that. Oh my
What's
goodness.
what's your Penguins prediction?
It's difficult to say. So what I will say is that I haven't felt
Yes,
this way about a team since the
since 17.
2016 2017 team.
Yeah,
Going into 2018, it wasn't like we had a bad team, and
we didn't have a good one.
we almost forced game
Oh,
7
sorry.
against Washington. Like
Yeah,
it was close. It was
I forget about that year. I believe if the Penguins, I gotta get.
I say
out
we
of it.
too. It's okay.
If the Penguins pull that game out in overtime in Game 6, I think they win in Game 7.
Yep.
But
Agree.
that Islanders series, I mean, I just saw the other day, you might have retweeted it, and that might be how I saw it. Like the lines that they rolled out for that team
So bad.
were bad. Their
So
defensive
bad.
pairings, other than Dumoulin and Letang, I don't think any of those guys are still here.
No, it was good. Branson, Schultz.
Ma-
My gosh, who else?
Mata
Johnson.
and Jack Johnson or something
Yeah,
like that.
Oli Mata. I think he may have been gone at that point. I can't remember. I forced
Yeah.
that year and even last year a little bit out of my memory, but
Well, it was weird because Montreal was like the 24th team.
yeah.
They were clearly on the up and up. I mean, they're in the playoffs this year.
Yep.
But I do feel like this is a special team, top to bottom. I mean, the addition of Jeff Carter might be one of the all-time GM moves of the century.
When you look up we gave up nothing for him. We gave up a couple draft picks that didn't really matter.
Yeah.
And LA retained his salary, like half of it at least. And we got this player who is not only really talented, which the Penguins have had their fair share of talented guys come through the system in the last couple of years, but it's always been a matter of mismatched chemistry.
Yes.
And he is so perfect.
Yeah. And I think that in LA, he was obviously losing that chemistry because I think he only had 9 goals in 40 games in LA. And I think he has more goals as a Penguin in just like 10 or 15 games. It's insane. It's all about fit because we've had talented guys like Brassard and Galchenyuk come in and they weren't a good fit and they ended up, not being around for very long. And people I think underestimate like schemes and fits and how people do in certain areas because you could have a super talented guy come in and if he doesn't work out, I feel like that's why a lot of quarterbacks fail in the NFL is because they come in and they want to, the college scheme that they had was built around them, and in the NFL, it has to get better. But like you have to be so much more dialed in and attention to detail. But sometimes quarterbacks don't fit into these schemes that would work into the NFL, and they fail. It's all about like how you work out. Like Trevor Lawrence is not a guarantee to be a Hall of Famer.
Yep.
It's whoever comes in and fills in and does the right things. Like Ben was a great fill-in right off the bat because they had an offense that suited him in his early like he wasn't a great passing quarterback statistically until till he was at least 10 years into the league.
Yeah.
I mean, his numbers were tops of the league, with the killer bees, and he is throwing like 5,000
Hmm.
yard seasons. So scheme is everything. I do
For
feel
sure.
good about this Penguin team. There's not a single team in the NHL that I think competes with them on paper, but that's just on paper.
Yeah.
I didn't want to play Boston.
Same. I'm so glad that we don't
Yeah,
have to in the first round at least.
right.
And hopefully the Bruins and the Caps can just beat the tar out of each other in the first round,
Yeah,
and
and they
whoever
will.
emerges. Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's, I mean, it's not a guarantee the Penguins are going to beat the Islanders. We're a much better team than we were 2 years ago when
yeah,
we played them and they swept us. But it's the postseason in any league is always is a new start. It's fresh for everybody, and what matters is what happens after that first puck drop. And the Islanders have been struggling, so all the signs are pointing towards the Penguins doing really well
yeah,
in this first round, but that doesn't mean they will. And I think that
right.
it's yeah, that's why I'm hesitant to make any kind of prediction, but I am willing to say that I feel way better about this team than I have in years since they won the cup.
Yeah, I'll make a prediction. I'm gonna go Pens in 5.
Okay. I like
And
that.
so for this first round, and then I'm not gonna predict the second round, but I do feel like this is a Stanley Cup team.
Mm-hmm. Same. Because what we saw in the last couple years, they had a couple hot streaks in them. Like last year before the trade deadline, they were doing really, really well with all the injuries. And then the trade deadline happened and then they kind of fell off a cliff. And then, the pandemic hit and that was its own thing, but they never really bounced back. And I think that was what they lost after 2017 was their ability to bounce back
Yeah,
after really difficult games or stretches of games. And what they had in that back-to-back cup run was their ability to be like, I remember so vividly in 2017 when we played Ottawa, that Eastern Conference final, when they killed us it was either game 3 or 4. They just kicked the crap out of us.
yeah.
And it was such a deflating loss and so bad. It was painful.
That's
And
when they switched back to Matt, right?
yep,
Yeah.
so Fleury was in that game. It was like 7-0 or something. I don't even remember. It was a really rough game. And they switched back to Matt Murray because he was healthy at that point,
Yeah.
and then they won out. They won out the series, and they they, they were just so resilient in those
Yeah.
years, and that's what we have witnessed in the last couple months is just that resiliency where they may have had a really crappy game against Philly or a really crappy game against Boston or Buffalo, but then they come out a couple games later and it's like this team, who could beat this team? I don't know.
Early in the season when they weren't playing very good hockey, I remember sitting at a restaurant called Sienna at Norwin. Shout out Sienna at Norwin. And I was sitting there with my buddy Gene, and the Penguins had just lost in overtime, and they were like 5-6-2, or like something that wasn't like great. Things weren't starting off well. And I just remember thinking like, I remember saying that like it is super important that we have been to overtime so much that like the Penguins are not playing their best brand of hockey right now, but they're really grinding out these really important points and wins. And it's carrying them to a point that when they figure out their brand of hockey, that grind
Yep.
is still going to be there, and it's going to carry them a long way. So they still have that like grit, like they refuse to die. And that's something that I think is like super exciting to like look for heading into the playoffs, because it's not really the team that wins so much as it is the team that like refuses to go down, the team that refuses to die. And I know those are budding concepts, but I am excited to see what happens this weekend, which I believe
Same.
when we play. What do you think about Tebow?
That is very interesting. I was surprised that he
Yeah,
came in as a tight end. I
yeah,
feel like that kind of came out of left field, but that's for me, who's very disconnected from everything that's happening with Tim Tebow and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Like I maybe they've been talking for a long time. Who knows? And it's I think it's pretty common for athletes on the professional level to not want to give that up. Like
yeah,
there's
yeah,
a
for
certain
sure.
level of ego involved whenever you're dealing with that kind of person, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's what makes winners winners. And
Yeah,
I think that he went for it as a quarterback. It didn't really work out. He went into baseball, didn't really work out. And now he's just trying to find another avenue to maybe, I don't know. I think that it's more indicative of Jacksonville and the state of their team that they would take such a big gamble on a player who's been removed from the league for so many years and coming back to play a
yeah,
position he's never played before. I think it's entertainment wise, the value is through the roof. People are
yeah,
going to be tuning in to every single Jacksonville game now just for Trevor Lawrence and Tim Tebow at tight end. Like
yeah,
it's huge.
yeah. I think with the what you're wagering for Jacksonville is depth and roster spot, like that 53rd guy. And I think they extended the rosters, maybe, or maybe that was just a 1 year thing. But
Mm,
with that 17th game, they might have extended by a couple guys. So that every man on your roster is super important from top to bottom, whether you're, Aaron Rodgers, who's like $37 million against the cap, to the rookie who they're depending on in your, in special teams.
mhm.
You're kind of giving up one of those for sort of this project. But what comes with Tim Tebow is leadership, the culture that you're
Mhm.
trying to create, but also offenses are trying to get more and more creative. And
Yeah.
I think Tim's a guy that will just do what he's told and
Yeah.
hopefully create that. I mean, Tim Tebow and the Wildcat, if he still has any legs to him, 3rd and 1, I mean, he runs with the power of like, your your running backs. If he still has it, I don't know.
Yeah.
He's gonna be 34 before the first
Mhm.
snap of the NFL season. So I'm excited because I've always been a Tim Tebow fan, but like I don't know about this one. I mean, I haven't played since 2016, so I'm gonna start stretching and just see what happens.
Maybe
See what
you can
I
play
can.
tight end.
I would love to. I'm 5'11", so 6 foot with cleats
Yeah.
on.
There you
So
go. Yep.
yeah, I'll just fit in right after Pat Fryermuth and Kevin Rader and all those guys.
Yeah. I think that's a perfect solution.
Yeah, I'll stretch. I'll see what happens. I went undrafted yet again, despite pretty solid measurables. So we'll see.
Somebody will take a chance on you
I
if
hope
you just put in the work a little bit. Yeah.
someone needs to. My bench has really gone down since the football days, but just give me a month or two.
Yep. Just build it back up. You'll get there by September. No big deal. Yeah. Well, hey, Cody, thank you so much. I'm not going to take up any more of your time, but I really appreciate you coming on here to talk with me about every single thing that we talked about. It was really awesome.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun to talk. I love doing these types of things.
Mhm.
I think I'd just like to get to know more people and
Mhm.
hang out. And it was super fun to just kind of chop it up and talk about like how this art thing is kind of been going.
For sure. It was awesome to hear about it because everything that I see on social media is just incredible. So to hear it from you is even better. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you. Well, let me know if there's anything I could do for you guys in the future, and I'd be happy to do this again sometime.
Yeah, the door is open always for you. Open invitation, and maybe sometime you and your wife and I can grab drinks and hang out in person.
Yeah, I would love that. She can't drink for probably about 8 more months.
Okay, well,
So
then well I'll mark it in my calendar and we'll get together then.
sounds good.
Yeah.
We would love that.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you, Cody. I hope you guys have a great night. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. You too.
See ya.
Bye.